Hi there, I'm Shana Hillman and I'm the General Manager at Kaeja General.
Hi, I'm Nadine Villasin Feldman and I'm the Community Animator at Kaeja General.
And we've been doing a lot of community engagement work over the last 3 years at Kaeja, and we're here today to talk to you a little bit about our top 10 tips for community engagement work.
Yeah.
Did you want to start us off, Nadine?
Sure. So I would say that our top tip for community engagement really has to do with the fact that it should really be all about the community participant. It's all about the community participant and not you. So what that really means is that when you're designing your community engagement project, everything from the schedule to the invitation, the language you use, how accessible the space that you're in is, all of these things really should take into account the participant's needs, and really thinking about what the barriers to participation are for the participant. It's not about the artist, we're there for the participant.
Yeah.
I think that's really important, and I think we can lose sight of that as artists, as arts organizations.
Just little things like when you're designing your rehearsal schedule, the fact that these aren't professionals, they're not trained. A 4-hour rehearsal isn't going to work with young children. They'll need to be broken up into smaller rehearsals. There'll need to be lots of time for breaks. If you're doing physical theater or dance work, the artist should be checking in about the physical limitations and just how people are feeling in their bodies. There's a tendency to be competitive with a group, and they will push themselves because they see their peers pushing themselves. So just checking in, making sure you're feeling fine. Does that movement feel good to you? Just that type of thing.
Number 2 is the importance of building time for connection. So one of the things that we really discovered is that we can really add value to a community engagement project by building in events, activities that really allow participants to socialize, to connect with one another, to share information. Oftentimes the social engagement project or the community engagement projects revolve simply around the art. And there's nothing to say that, that the two can't come together. We've had a lot of success, for example, with a project that we did called the Wedding Brigade project, where we had a reception for all the female participants, and we held it on the patio of a cafe. And it was just a nice way to kind of break the ice, to have the women meet each other, share their stories, why they were interested in participating, meet the artists and staff. Other things like community potluck dinners, which are inexpensive but a wonderful way of making everyone feel like they have something to contribute to the group.
Exactly. And also another thing would be to be sure to plan, if you are doing a social event, plan some speaking notes, welcome notes, but also some icebreakers, just because a lot of times there are people who are coming together for the first time, they don't know each other, and nobody wants to be at a lame party.
Yeah.
Another big one for me is about being present in your community. And this will link into our 10th point, but I make it a point to go to BIA meetings, residents association meetings. If there's a community meeting at the local school regarding the redevelopment of a park, which we use as well, I go because I want to hear the residents and see, but I also want to be seen in the community, and I want them to know that we're an active part in the community. So when we then come and ask them for things, they know that we're an active part in the community, we're a participant, and it just makes it a lot easier for asking for things you need down the road.
And again, this helps with point number 1, in terms of knowing who your community is and what their concerns are. And again, when you're designing a program, you can't just come into a community with an idea and kind of impose it. I think part of our process has been learning to go into communities and speak with people in the community about what their concerns are, and then try to figure out how what we do can address those concerns. So, part of what Shana is saying about being present in the community can really help us identify what those concerns are and then strategize around how we can address those concerns.
I mean, also, it also allows you, if you're out walking the main street of your town or the main street of your neighborhood, you're also then connecting with local businesses, you're patronizing them. Those are the first people you'll go to when you need volunteers, when you need a donation for that reception.
Absolutely.
So it's really important. And I've said before that if that's not the kind of thing you like, and if you're not comfortable going out and talking to people in the community, maybe this isn't the right job for you. But look in your organization. Is there anyone else who's, you know, a chatty Cathy and likes going out, talking to people in the community, maybe make it part of their job?
Yeah, because it really is about building relationships. So you want to find the person in your organization whose strength that really is. So our number 4 tip is the importance of creating multiple entry points for engagement. Do you want to talk about that, Shana?
Yeah, the idea that not all people in the community will want to give up 20 hours of their life to creating a piece of dance with a choreographer and then a whole week of evening performances.
And not all people want to be creative in that way necessarily.
Yeah, but there are still people who want to interact with art in smaller ways. So what we've done is we've developed ways that they can still interact and participate. So for example, at our Porch dances, we have the families who participate and create a piece of choreography and perform it for a week. And then at the end, everyone goes to Vermont Square Park and they perform. They are invited in to perform into something called a flock landing, which our artistic director Karen Kaeja developed. It's a very slow, gentle movement that looks like a flock of birds. It's beautiful. It's very easy for anyone of all ages and abilities, and so people can participate in that way. But then there are other people who just want to participate by taking a photo on their cell phone and posting it on social media in front of, you know, a performance or a piece of art. We've also had really good success with having interactive bean poles. They're literally jars with dried beans, and they can drop a bean in the jar and answer different questions, like how many arts events do you visit a year? How did you get here today? TTC, walk, bicycle, car, those kind of questions. And then we've also, one of my favorite things is we've had a big map and we've asked people to indicate where they came from so that we know where our audiences are coming from for Porch dances, but also by seeing the concentrations in the different neighboring neighborhoods, give us an idea on where we can take Porch dances next. And those are all opportunities for people to engage in the art and the event without necessarily giving up a bunch of time for rehearsals.
As well as volunteerism. Opportunities for volunteerism are not only so beneficial to your own organization or project, but also they really give an opportunity for people who don't necessarily want to engage in the art to still feel part of a larger event, to connect with the artists, which is often what people want to do. So that's a really vital aspect, a component of a multiple entry point for engagement.
Now this one, Nadine, you've talked a lot about, is the idea of crafting the invitation. Can you tell me, what does that mean?
So, crafting the invitation actually goes back, I mean, all of these points often go back to point number 1. Crafting the invitation really focuses on the idea of what the participant needs to want to participate. And it's all about addressing what those potential needs and wants are, or what kind of problem we're fixing through our engagement project. So this affects language, this affects what your imagery is. We did a project called the Wedding Brigade, which invited women from across the GTA to come dressed in either their wedding dresses or just all in white, and participate in this moving procession of women in white, doing, gentle gestures, performing gentle gestures, and it was a performance installation that took place in Porch Dances, our community dance event. And part of crafting that invitation was really finding an image that all kinds of women could relate to. So it was really important that it didn't look too artistic or inaccessible. We ultimately ended up taking a picture of a group of women dressed in white laughing. We tried to make the picture look as diverse as possible in terms of, making women of different cultural backgrounds, ages, abilities feel like they could identify or place themselves in that image. So that was a really important part of crafting the invitation. And the invitation also extends beyond just your promotional material. It's also things like welcome packages that really give as much information as your most worried participant would want to have. Not everybody is going to read them, but it's a very it's how you welcome somebody into your project and help them feel comfortable, welcome, and informed. Crafting the invitation is really something to put a lot of attention to.
And I mean, that's the other thing. Remember, these aren't artists. Maybe they're taking a real risk to do this project and they're nervous. So that welcome package becomes a security blanket for them. It answers every question and makes them feel really confident in you and your organization that this is a well-run project and everything's going to be taken care of for me.
Yeah, and it's everything. It's everything from their first phone call to ask a question to, it's all in communication as well. It's not really just about that initial invitation. It is how you present yourself as an organization and how you do it in a way that makes people feel comfortable and part of something really exciting and special. Here's my favorite, point number 6. So point number 6 is don't reinvent the wheel. And there's this idea, especially when you're going into a new community, that you kind of have to go in and figure everything out on your own. And generally what we found what we find is that there are already plenty of resources in the community and people doing the work or some of the work that you need done already. So for example, for our most recent community engagement project, Etobicoke Dances, at Montgomery's Inn, we went into the community and spoke with the community arts organizations that were already working there and really garnered their support. Developing community partnerships is obviously critical in your community engagement project. And we used, their outreach resources, in a lot of cases, their physical resources. Montgomery's Inn provided their space, things like that.
Just also the fact that we, when going in and having those first meetings, just really deferring to them about their expertise. We're not coming in here, it's not competitive, but how can we work together that in our sector, no one has enough time and no one has enough resources. But I'm sure there are projects they want to do and they'd like to extend their reach, but they can't. So these are opportunities that organizations can work together to do that. And also that, they have expertise about their community, about resources, about people we need to talk to, people we shouldn't talk to. People, that we should rely on. And I think just coming to people within that spirit of openness and generosity, I think we've never not had a good response to it.
Well, and mutual interest. I think the point you make around mutual interest is really important, that there's something to gain from not only you as an artist or organization, but also the organization that you're partnering with, and that it's not just about coming to people for what they can do for you. It's really about what you can do for them, or shared mutual interests. So that's really important. Mm-hmm. Number 7, Shana, maybe you can address this one.
And so this is that not every community engagement project has to involve community participants. Mm-hmm. They're wonderful, but they are, and this will come back to our 10th point when we get there. But they're wonderful, but they take a lot of time. We've also had a lot of success, and Karen and Allen, our artistic directors, have done a lot of work over the years, just taking professional performers out into site-specific spaces, into places where you wouldn't expect to encounter art. And a really great example of this is something we did 2 years ago as part of Doors Open Toronto. Doors Open Toronto is an extremely popular event. People line up for hours to get access into public buildings and not public buildings that they normally can't tour, and it is really exciting. However, there are 2-hour lineups, just some of the things. So we actually worked with the new Doris McCarthy Artist Residence Center. It's Doris McCarthy, the visual artist's former home, which is called Fool's Paradise. And it was named Fool's Paradise because her mother thought it was a fool's errand to buy such a property as a single woman at the time. And the nature of the house, it's very tiny, is that only about 30 or 40 people can go through at a time. It's also one of Doors Open's most popular sites. So the idea that there'd be a ton of people lined up waiting all day to get into this house, how could we animate the space thematically and as well
Provide value to Doors Open.
Exactly. Entertain the people waiting, keep them active and entertained and not cranky about the lineup. So we did a site-specific dance piece on the grounds called Fool's Paradise. And it was fantastic and beautiful. It's the house itself, and the site is perched on the top of the Scarborough Bluffs, and the lake is there, so the dance happened against that. There'll be a video that you can watch of that. But the other thing, going back to one of our earlier points about creating multiple points of engagement for people, is that yes, people could watch the dance, but we also had a set of index cards, and people could fill out a simple question: what was paradise to them? So that space was Doris McCarthy's paradise and her idea of paradise. What was your idea of paradise? And then we had clotheslines strung up along the hedgerow, and so people could hang them. And so while people were waiting in the line, they could view it. While they waited to go in, they could ponder, think about their own comment and write it. And it was really a beautiful way to engage them in 2 ways.
Point number 8 is, or maybe you say this point because I've been saying all the points. You say
Oh,
point
okay.
number 8.
Point number 8 is keeping up the connection long after the event is past, but I also refer to it as stewardship. In doing this community engagement work, we're going into the relationship business. And when your event is over, your relationship doesn't end with those participants or those community partners. And our community participants have become some of the most valuable people and volunteers in our organization. 3 of the board members at Kaeja to Dance actually came to us because they participated in Porch dances. Hearing them go out and talk about Kaeja to Dance is amazing in their own words, because they've had this really intimate experience, they've performed, they're fantastic champions for us now. So I like to think about when you're doing your stewardship plan for the year, when your fundraising department is doing their stewardship plan for the year and looking at how they're going to, steward donors, corporate donors, volunteers, your community participants should be included. So when your fundraising department is doing your stewardship plan for the year for your corporate donors, your individual donors, and your volunteers, you should also include your community participants as part of that plan. How are you going to keep in touch with them over the year? And what methods of communication will you use to do that? Will it be emails? Will it be a personalized letter put in with the season brochure to your main stage that you've sent them? Is it an invitation to behind the scenes rehearsals, dress rehearsals, free tickets to a night at the theater that maybe is a slow night for you? They don't have to be expensive ways to keep in touch with people.
Sorry to interrupt, but more importantly, I think to find ways that are already to find opportunities through activities that you're already doing, I think is a great way to try to, for organizations with not a lot of resources, to find ways of stewarding those relationships without putting a lot of resources or output into them.
Exactly, and some things cost no money at all. Having a board member sit down with a list of phone numbers and names and calling people and thanking them during National Volunteer Week doesn't cost anything, and it is one of the most rewarding things to do.
So, point number 9, engagement takes time. I think that when we talk about community arts engagement, as Shana said, we are in the business of relationship building. And if you think of any relationship, any deep, long-lasting friendships, partnerships, business relationships, these things have all taken a lot of time to cultivate. So I think, we want to encourage you, but also discourage you in a sense, by saying that this is not a, quick and dirty job. You need to really be prepared to commit the time and the resources organizationally into doing community engagement if you want to do it well, if you want it to be meaningful.
Yeah, that you're not going to do Porch dances and then the next year see 1,000 new people at your theater when you do a main stage show. We've been doing Porch dances now for 5 years. We have seen a handful of people who now are coming to the theater, but through doing some post-event, we do interviews and we also do surveys, we have found some other exciting things. So while people, maybe a handful, are coming to our show, we do know of people who have bought a subscription to the series we are part of, and they're interested in seeing more dance. We've had people respond on surveys that they have started viewing dance videos on YouTube with their kids and looking at other dance forms that from around the world. And we've also seen a couple of the kids that have participated who are now taking dance classes at the local for-profit dance studios that are here in the neighborhood. So it's
about the long game.
Yeah, it's incremental, and it's also that also looking bigger than you at your community. That if someone has a good experience at a Kaeja to Dance community event, they are probably more open and willing to participate in another art form and or to see more modern dance. So we're not just doing this for Kaeja to Dance, it also helps our entire sector.
This brings us to point number 10, which is my favorite point, and that is that process is just as important as product, which means that you could have a beautiful final product, whatever it may be, a performance, a piece of art, whatever it is, but if your participants did not have a good time, if they felt alienated from the process, from the artists, then you really haven't accomplished ultimately what we feel is most important in this process. So making sure that people are comfortable, that people are enjoying the process, in my mind is far more important than what the product looks like.
Yeah, and I don't think, the other thing is that audiences are enormously open-hearted to this kind of work. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's ever come to a Porch Dances and been like, oh, I didn't like that. Instead, I hear time and time again that people are so amazed. They're so amazed that an everyday person just got up on their porch and did that, and how they could never do that, and that person is so brave, and that was so beautiful. And so I don't think the artistic product at the end, I think our audiences are more open and understanding than we're giving them credit for. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I hope that this helps you in your work, and we're always available to chat, and you can find us at kaeja.org, and there will be links to some of the videos and projects that we've talked about.
And we'd love to hear about what you're doing.
Exactly.